website. So of course, if you have any issues with that, please do let me know, and of course we won't. So I'm just letting in the last people. Okay. So good morning, everyone. I'm just going to let the last person in. So good morning. So welcome to today's virtual career chat, focusing on the role of site manager. We have guest speakers today from Lendlease and Willmott Dixon. So if I can just ask, if you're not a speaker, just to turn your camera off. We will have a Q&A at the end, so that's the time for you to put your camera on. And I'm going to hand over to the CEO, Angela Forbes.
Yes, hi there. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our virtual career chat with me, Angela Forbes. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all back, and I hope you are all safe and well and looking after one another. So we are on the first steps of lockdown here in the UK. Schools and nurseries are back, and I can hear that collective sigh of relief from parents absolutely everywhere. And we're also starting to think about haircuts and holidays and all sorts of things. So it's definitely the good spirits are in the air. Now, as well as a great audience this morning, I can see some of the names popping up, many that we know. We've also got some incredible speakers. So our chat this morning is centred around site management. Now, we have got a treat for you. Our first speaker is Alex Miller of Lendlease, who's also M&E biased. And I know that there's a great number of you out there who inquire about this role. So we'll hear more about Alex's transition just in a moment. And then he'll be followed by Ben Silsby, who works in the sustainability department of Willmott Dixon. So this is another area of huge interest. So we've got two fantastic topic areas this morning to hear from. So without further ado, I will hand over to our first speaker, Alex. And I'll turn my camera off.
Hello everyone. Thanks for that introduction. I'm going to share a screen from PowerPoint, but I'm not going to go through slides. I'm just going to have one slide on there and try and talk loosely about my transition from the army to Lendlease. So for you guys who don't know Lendlease, it's a main contractor. The project I'm working on at the moment is 8 Bishopsgate, a tower in central London. So hopefully you can see the slide okay. Angela, can you just let me know that what you can see that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect, Alex. Now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. All right. So I did 5 years in the Army, the Royal Engineers, and I left in 2016. So if I just give you a bit of my background. So most of my time I was at 170 Engineer, which is primarily infrastructure support. And my trade training in the Army was an E&M draftsman. So I was doing mechanical electrical drawings, and that gave me sort of the interest in my MEP background that I do today. So while I was in the Army, did Op Herrick, Falklands and Kenya. One of the interesting things that got me more interested in a role in construction was when I was in Op Herrick in Afghanistan. We were looking at the drawdown of Camp Bastion, and towards the end of my tour, I was lucky to get the opportunity to sort of do an assistant CM role. I was going out to the various plots that we were demolishing, and being able to sort of work with the contractors, sort of do the things that we CMs do on normal UK projects, looking at the plant, looking at are they doing it safely, taking the site diaries. So I started to build that sort of understanding of the CM role, the construction manager role, and get that interest and feel for it for working with contractors, working various trades to achieve a project outcome. Falklands, Project Animal. I don't know if we've got any Royal Engineers on the call, but that will flush up to a lot of people that are in the Royal Engineers as quite a challenging project. It was it was 3 remote radar heads in the Falkland Islands. So straight away you're talking difficult logistics, so on and so forth. I went out there to look at the early concept designs, and it was the first time sort of as a core we'd really considered things like fire stopping, commissioning of a proper all-in-one building. So that got me a lot of good experience and a hell of a lot of lessons learned. And I think that was a lot of lessons learned for the project wide. And I look back now thinking, God, like, where all the mistakes I made, even designing fire stopping into around services to what we do today, which is something, you know, we're quite familiar with in construction projects, getting things like fire stopping, fire safety systems right is always quite a challenge. And then Kenya is a good one for me because it gave me that opportunity to look at very small scale buildings, but with your own take and your own input to try and get an outcome. We were doing sort of small R&P buildings. We had a welfare area, that sort of thing. So it's small scale, but it gave me a chance to give a little bit more design input. When I was considering leaving, I actually came to the a Lendlease Look at Life, which was run by Bill Falls, and at that point I met Angela Forbes, who's on the call. Met Angela and spoke about my background and said, you know, I'm interested in MEP, but I've mainly been on the design side. And Angela said to me at the time, she said, well, why don't you come to Lendlease for a couple of weeks and do a bit of shadowing and shadow a design manager. Do you know what a design manager does? And I looked a bit blank and was not sure. So I said, follow a design manager, and then another week follow an MEP manager. And then from that, I understood that, you know, all the sort of issues you get trying to manage a design early stages of the project, which was on Hammersmith 245, which is the red building. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but this red facade building. And I also got to go to the BBC studios, where I followed an MEP manager called Robin McEwen, who I work with today. And that really cemented the fact that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on site, on project, working with mechanical, electrical trades to install services. That meant a lot of that sort of put a lot of things in my mind. That's what I definitely wanted to do. But how did you get there? How did I get there? So straight away, although I had got a bit of experience in M&E, I needed to go to university and study, and I looked at various ways of doing this. And luckily, Lendlease gave me the opportunity that I could do 1 day a week at university, London South Bank. So I did 1 day a week doing building services engineering and part-time study, and then the other 4 days, obviously, on site. So through that, I did Devonshire Square and 245 Hammersmith. I'll speak about in a bit. I'm also still a reservist. Initially, I was drawn in, and as you guys are all leaving, I'm sure you've been people have talked about the commitment bonuses. So at first I was brought in by that commitment bonuses the reservists are offering, but after a while it was quite clear to me that I absolutely love being a reservist, and I plan to keep that going for the considerable future. And that's given me some even more sort of interest in different sort of small scale construction projects that I've been able to get on and involved with as well. A couple of years ago we went out to Cyprus. RAF Akatiri, obviously, I'm sure a lot of guys on the call have been through the passenger handler facility there. A bit run down, a bit, which is, it's not really fit for purpose, but for what operational reasons they can't close it. And I got to do sort of a bit of a concept design for a new passenger handler facility. So I kind of pulled away a little bit from M&E and did an overall look at the building and what we need. We don't want to just copy, imitate a civilian airport. What does it take to be a military operational passenger handling facility, and we don't call it an airport. It's passenger handling facility for a reason, because it runs differently, and that was really interesting. A way to sort of, keep the costs low, but try and get something effective while keeping the other existing passenger handling facility open at the same time. And then I've also, looked at trying to give advice on how to bring BIM into the Royal Engineers. It's something we do every day in civilian street. We don't think much of it. It's just part of parcel what we do. But it's something that I know the Royal Engineers is trying to take, and I've been able to help give that feedback. I've done a couple of reports for them recently, and look at barrack relocation studies. Existing services, what's there, what would it take to upgrade to make a new area slightly smaller in scale, efficient for a new barracks. So then, coming on to Lendlease again, I spoke briefly about it. Yeah, so went to study at London South Bank, part-time studying, which it was a great opportunity. Always has its challenges. I'm sure a lot of you guys will have kids and families and things like that. So I was the same. I had a brand new son in my last year. So it was 1 year old when I was trying to do my last exams. It's always a challenge, but it's well worth it, and I'm really happy I did that. So if there is opportunities, you can do things like that. It's very much worthwhile. So quick overview of projects I've done since leaving. Devonshire Square, which was 2 buildings, existing building near Liverpool Street Station, cut and carve, Cate fit out, and then we had 245 Hammersmith, brand new building, 12-storey commercial, very large footprints, including a green space that you can see in the photo, and a big archway, as well as this sort of striking red facade that you can see. So that was very interesting, had its own challenging basement issues and things like that, trying to get the plant in, so forth. And then 8 Bishopsgate, which you can see are the 2 right-hand photos. At top right-hand, you see where the left-hand side of the cheese grater, the concept picture, and then the below bottom left, that's the 2 cores, the north and south core going up. So if anyone, I think most people sort of recognise the cheese grater where they are. So yeah, it's quite a good opportunity. I'm very happy to be on that. And that was I came onto this project looking to package manage, as opposed to what I was doing before. Before I was assistant building services, I was kind of covering a lot of different things, assisting the senior building services manager. Whereas now I came onto this with a mindset that I want to take a couple of packages of my own. So I've taken Sprinkler, Fire Alarm, and BMS, which we're in that sort of stage that it's trying to get it right now, the design and then early install right, to allow the commissioning to be a lot easier, because we're going to be the last ones in waiting for it to be handed over. So I'll just drop this off for a minute and talk loosely. Okay, I'll just close that. I'll just stop sharing my screen. Okay. Yeah, so when Andrew and Caroline asked me to do this, trying to think about the stuff that was would be relevant that I would like to know about when I was leaving. So you hear a lot when you're leaving. You hear a lot about, there's you've got loads of transferable skills, and so on. And really trying to sort of understand what that is and what your experiences are and what your experiences can bring to a new job, a new project, new role. One of the things that, when you leave, you'll see all sorts of NEBOSH advertisement quotes. Suddenly, everyone's saying, I'd come be a health and safety manager. And I don't know what your understanding is, but no matter what your role in construction will be, you'll be heavily involved in health and safety, regardless if you have that qualification or not. Everything we do, we think about from main contractor side. You'll be reviewing proposing ways to do something safely. You'll be looking at risk assessments and approving them, and then you'll be out on site checking the guys that are doing it the right way according to the plan. And the big thing about that is in the industry is safe starting. So in the morning, every day, the guys get briefed by their supervisor. And this is, I would say, is never quite the standard we would like. And we do have to do a lot of training to bring the guys on. And this is one of the things that, you know, in the military, we're trained from a very early age, from a very early part in our career, to be able to give efficient briefings, regardless of what it is. And that'll be, I remember from arriving at my unit, within a few weeks, I was given a PIR and told, right, give a lesson to these officers on a simple bit of radio kit that everyone knew how to use. Go and give a lesson and get some feedback. And then from there, it just developed and developed and developed. And then you start doing, having a practice go at orders. And then you do, before you can look at promotion, you have to pass certain parts, which include abilities to deliver an efficient set of orders. And that gives you in that mindset of doing something in a certain format, i.e. what the task is, where the task is going to be, where you go in, what the route is, and things like that in a certain format. But then you all do that bit where you put your book down, you put your orders down, and you go, right, listen in, lads, this is what we're going to do. And this is when you start looking at them in the eye and you start talking them through, right, Johnny, I need you to do this for me. Right, you at this point, I'm going to ask you, Mickey, to look out for this, or whatever it may be. You know, we've all been in that scenario, or we've been witness to orders, and this has just got us in that mindset. Now, in civilian industry, this is something they really struggle with. You'll go out around the site, and you'll see these orders. You'll see these safe starts, which are practically the same. They're a morning briefing, which similar to orders. You know, the structure they've got to follow through. Are your RAM signed? Or have you got an approved risk assessment? Is your safe equipment safe? There'll be a format that they have to go through and tick off. Every company will be different, and then it'll be a bit more of a to and fro at the end of it, like you do in orders, where you put your book down and say, right, what we're doing, this is what we're doing. A bit more loose chat, and a bit more two-way conversation. And this is something everyone always struggles with, but it's something in the military that we do, and we practice very, very early on, and we practice and practice and practice, and we also have to expect to do it at a certain level before we can progress. So when people so when you're thinking about these transferable skills, there's things like that you might not necessarily think about, because it's completely different to construction, but it's inbuilt in us that we deliver efficient briefings and get the message across, because we have to. And one of the other things I struggled with when I was leaving, I remember sitting in the Look at Life that Bill Force did, and I was the youngest in the room at the time, and I was thinking, oh God, like, am I punching above my weight here? Everyone else is ex-officers, whatever, and I'm here as a junior. Maybe, you know, I need to have a look at what I'm doing. It's very easy to get in that mindset of, in the military, we have certain points you have to do before you can get to progress to the next step in the ladder. It's the way it is. You've got to do certain number of years or do certain qualifications before you can do the next step, and that comes at certain times of the year, promotion boards, blah blah blah. Whereas it isn't like that in civilian industry. Yes, you all need experience for certain roles, but it's a lot more fluid on what you can do and how you can get there. So don't think it's complete. Any role is closed off to you. If you want to do something, look into it. What does it need? What qualifications does it need? What experience does it need? Have a look at it, and then it can all be something that you can maybe come in as a trainee and then work to progress as. So you can come in at trainee level, bit maybe what I did, something like 1 day a week at uni, and then progress up, take the assistant title away, whatever it may be. There'll be an option to start and get there. So other things I wanted to talk about was you'll get, if you are to do something like a construction manager role or building services manager, you'll turn up on site, and not in a bad way, but you'll be thrown in the deep end a little bit, and you'll be there expected to manage guys that maybe have done what they do day in, day out for 30 years. And it's very easy to get intimidated by the fact they've got all this bags of experience, so surely they must know the exact way to do it, the right way to do it. But you've got to take a step back and think, right, do you understand the process? Does it look right to you? And if it doesn't, then raise it and ask the questions. Big thing is, know the drawings and know the technical information. It's easy to go, right, so that is it's easy to work on a site and go, this is a mechanical thing, so I need to go speak to the mechanical expert. A lot of the time, you can have a look at the drawings, you can have a look at the technical information, and a lot of the technical information is worded in a way that anyone can understand it. And before you take that jump and go and speak to someone, have a little think about, can I understand it myself before I go speak to someone else? So first of all, get your drawings, get your technical information, read it. Does it make sense to you? And you'll be surprised how much information that is out there, even to do with these more technical subjects, that you can just read and understand and get your head around, and then maybe go to speak to someone about the finer points. And you always look a lot more competent if you've done that little early exercise. So yeah, that's a big one. I think really don't jump in, don't ask the questions, of course, and people will always be there to help you out and to answer. But have a look at it first, try and get an initial understanding, and then go to speak to someone about the finer details, regardless if it's nothing to do with, you may be a CM and it may be a bit of chiller mechanical plant or whatever it may be. You can always have a little read of the text up, and it always starts off with a description of operation or whatever it may be that generally most people can read and get their head around. I think that's it from me. Are we doing questions and answers at the end, or what do we want to do?
Yeah, we'll do questions at the end, and I've got loads, Alex. That was brilliant. Thank you very much for that. And congrats on the birth of your child as well.
I've got two now. Yeah, it's moved along. Yeah, two.
Yeah. Okay, could I ask, we'll come back for questions, but we'll hear from Ben Silsby first. Ben, if you're able to join us.
Yeah,
Hi.
no problem. Hi,
Okay,
everyone.
I'll turn my camera off.
I'm not going to run through slides. I think I'll do the same thing as Alex, probably just to talk to you on it. It's really great insight from Alex, that experience of directly coming out of the forces. I'll give you a little bit of my background. My father was in the forces, and from the forces he went and worked in construction, and he came out of the forces and originally started training as a plumber. Did an apprenticeship as he came out, because we don't have the same programs, or they didn't have the same programs that are available now to him. And he started working on site, worked his way into becoming a site manager through their own sort of trainee process, and eventually worked his way up to a construction manager and then onto a senior operations manager level, certainly in a Willmott Dixon world, kind of just below the operations director in running multiple projects. And the kind of transferable skills that he had taken from his service led him, they ended up calling him, they called his team the Flying Squad, as they would go in and finish projects that were overrunning, running out of budget and all sorts, and he would bring in his team and they would get the jobs finished. And that kind of opened my world into construction. So before I go into that as well, I'm not a site manager. My role's a sustainability manager. And what I get to do is go and visit each of our sites, and I deal with everything from tender stage all the way through to customer handover and the building in use. So yeah, my experience of construction, and again, the health and safety rules are very different now, but at 6 years old on a Saturday morning, my dad had me up scaffolding, got me my first pair of boots, which were hard to find for a young person, but boots and gloves, a thermal jacket on. I don't even remember wearing a high-vis vest, but up the scaffolding and hanging guttering and fixing toilet seats. And then from there, again, I just carried on earning a bit of pocket money whenever I could go in and work at the weekends, topping up bits and pieces. Now, my dad worked through the recession in the 80s that hit the construction industry particularly hard. And I won't say the name of the contractor he's working for, where he worked for at the time, because they still run now, and I'm sure things are very different. But they treated him quite poorly as that came about, and he was made redundant, even though he was one of the most respected teams there, leading one of those teams. And he came out of the industry and just for a few years, and he just said, don't ever get into construction. So that wasn't on my trajectory, my flight path. And I went, when I finished college, I went and studied for a little while. I didn't do particularly great at my grades. I went and then travelled. And when I came back, I decided to go to university and go with something that was very close to my heart in sustainability, trying to drive better principles throughout whatever industry I went to choose on. But again, I had pushed construction to the back of my mind. And I came out and I worked for third sector, ended up working for a charitable organisation after completing university. I went into university as a mature student without the right grades to get in, but I managed to come out, and in fact, it's quite a success story. I ended up getting my master's in sustainable management. And I went and worked for this charity for a number of years, a charity called Groundwork, and they work on tackling social exclusion and tackling climate change as it was seen at that stage when I started working there. And then one of my colleagues from university had gone on to work for Willmott Dixon. He'd kind of gone on as in a trainee program. He again had gone in as a sustainability manager. He's adjusted his roles, bit of a roller coaster career as opposed to just a ladder, but moved around the business, testing different roles, and now he leads one of our sort of work finding and tendering teams for one of our offices. And at the time, they needed someone to lead their community engagement. Most projects now, as we get into contract with our customers, many, and I think the same will be the same you, Alex, as you work with planning requirements or local authority commitments. They will have what they put together as employment and skills plans, and understanding a way of trying to make the industry sustainable while offering enhancements for local communities. So to give you a bit of scope on that as well, so industry to GDP, the construction industry is worth about 6%. It's about £113 million a year. It's got growth year on year, and over the next 5 years, they're looking for another 2.4 million jobs to address a skills shortage. And that skills shortage is reflected and seen in the fact that about 20%, I believe it is. I'm just going to double check those figures before I promise that. But a 22% of construction workers are over 50 and 15% are over 60. And when you think probably some of the main contractors are really driving that as a good stats to try and make sure they're backfilling that. We've got a groundworking firm I started working with, and I started talking to them about their apprenticeship programs and initiatives and routes in for people. They didn't have a single employee under 50. And so when I sort of said to them, what does your business look like for the next 10 years? You're turning over £15 million a year, and in 10 years time, most of your workforce, if they're not broken already, groundworks, good industry, but fairly hard on the body, and they hadn't even thought of it. And I said, so is your idea that you'll just go and then poach other people or recruit other people that can then put up your wage bills, or do you want to start looking at taking some of that knowledge you've got and passing that on to kind of a next generation? And it was something they hadn't even considered. And again, construction's probably seen as a bit of a dirty industry for a lot of people, and I think Alex will probably be the best to attest to that there are dirty parts of it, but there's a lot of opportunities to get into and experience different roles. So I came on, did community engagement. Willmott Dixon set up a new Central South office. I moved across and I run the whole sustainability team there. And sustainability has absolutely gone kind of through the roof for the construction industry in recent years, with many local authorities declaring climate emergencies, setting net zero carbon targets, which again are passed on under planning requirements. And it means that as I said, I was engaged from tender stage. We have to demonstrate our ability to deliver the buildings in an efficient manner. And one of the things that's probably always haunted the construction industry is a performance gap. So we design a building to perform in a certain way. And again, if questions can be fired to Alex there, he'll probably talk about how the services can impact that. And then the performance of the building actually in use is totally different. And there can be a gap of contractors being held to account on that. And all of that training and expertise that you've gained in your military service around quality and then the health and safety aspects, again, if you're pushed towards that, actually all of those skills will be transferable and usable in many of your job roles within construction. So don't just limit your mindset to going site management, because the other roles will be available to you depending on the route you come in. So then I take it through, support the design teams to look at the fabric of the building, what we can do to make it efficient, what we can reduce the embodied carbon of the products we're using, to look at a whole life cycle of a building, to make sure that we can say, right, that building's expected to be there for 50 years or 100 years. What are the materials that are going into it, and can we actually make sure we design it so that at end of life, when we take it down, all of those materials can be reused again at the next level. And then supporting our customers when we come to in use. We've designed the building to be as efficient as possible. We've built it to be as efficient as possible, and then changing mindsets and training people who are using the buildings. All of those that have come from their leaky university building with single glazing, sort of desk fans and fan heaters sat under their tables, and then bringing it into a new efficient building that actually does all of that for them. We've got to change their mindset and remove those extra bits of paraphernalia, because that again all increases the energy and turns it into a building not performing as the way it should. So that's kind of my route into construction. I will say it's definitely changed from when my dad was there. There's a lot more drive around making sure that we do engage individuals who are leaving service, or those who have been care leavers or for whatever reason, and for females as well, who have probably been marginalised by the industry for a long time. Again, just changing that image of construction and moving it forward. As Alex said, there's so many different job roles. Willmott Dixon is a tier 1 contractor, the same as Lendlease. So we oversee, our project scales are probably between 5 and 150 million. I think you'll probably see Lendlease doing some slightly bigger jobs, and that's probably one of the ones that Alex is on at the moment. Willmott Dixon's broken up into 6 local company offices around the country. We have a Central South office, South East, Wales and the West, the North and the Midlands are our main hubs. And then we have an interior fit out business as well that's based in central London and Birmingham. So again, if that's something that's of interest to you, and their project range anywhere from about £500,000 again up to sort of 120, and they've done some recent jobs, Alexandra Palace, that are kind of the big grand scale things, down to refurbishments of nationwide building society branches. Within Willmott Dixon, we have over 200 different job roles, and none of them are on the tools. So where you're considering site management and project management, and if you were to come in into either a trainee route or an assistant manager's role, you'll get the opportunity to go and experience some of those other job roles. And the purpose behind that is to understand, if you go and do some work with the quantity surveyors or the estimators, the planners, the designers, the health and safety team, because you will need to understand how each of those job roles will impact your own job role, and then how your job role will impact that of others. It just sets you up to be a better build manager or health and safety manager or design manager, because you can understand those impacts, and rather than having people complaining about things not fitting right. And again, I'll go back to Alex, and I'm sure he'll talk to you, be happy to talk to you about clash detection and problems of somebody putting up a wall in a place and a design has not quite fitted it right, and then somebody has to come and run some duct work through, and they're cutting holes and then leaving messes, and it's just all about fixing that, and the BIM technology allows us to overcome that, work with our supply chain in consultation, and then work with our teams to make sure that we do that right. We've got a number of different routes into our business. We would do offer the work placements to come and work alongside some of our colleagues, so you can experience the job roles, just get a real feel for it to see that if it fits, if it's the right fit for you, and likewise if you're the right fit for the business. And likewise, we'll be able to work with some of our supply chain if you fancied going and working in the management side with some of those trades. We have our management trainee program. The applications for those usually are open early December, run through to about mid-January, and that's usually for the following September start. But we have been able to bring people in earlier if they want to come and do the work experience, or if we know we're going to take them on as a trainee, come and do start their traineeship early before actually going through some of the qualifications. Now, the qualifications that are available, if you're going to be looking to go into that site management style role, from an entry level, you can come in at that sort of level 3 HNC route, and you can look at construction management, and again they will give you experience in each of the the construction management roles, so that you can get a feel for it as you develop in your career and know which way you want to go. It will move on to HND, then there's either a degree apprenticeship or a level 6 a degree equivalent, and then if you've already got a degree in something, you can come straight in and do a construction management masters if it's not construction related, to step into that role. If you've already got experience, and many of you have come through the engineers will have already had kind of that kind of construction mindset, the drawings, getting things done, and it will probably suit your nature if that's something that you really do. That site management role is very much about doing, like taking something that you can see a drawing and then overseeing it into the end product, and managing the quality of that to make sure it's been done right. Even for the things that are going to be hidden, so that you don't have to come back and fix them again. And then if you've got that experience already, you may step into an assistant site manager, assistant quantity surveyor, assistant design manager role, and then forge your career there. I think that's probably a good place for me to stop. I'll just give you a little bit more about sustainability as well, as that's probably more my expertise. So in terms of sustainability for the built environment, we have to consider the triple bottom line of social sustainability, environmental sustainability, and economic sustainability. So we will take into account everything from driving and maximising local pound. If we're talking economic sustainability, many of our customers, especially those who are a local authority, will want to see that there's a kind of local pound return on investment, and we can understand that when they come in and we can say we're going to spend an X percentage of spend with local supply chain, they'll know that their local people are going to be being upskilled, their local people are going to be trained, offered apprenticeships, their local businesses will be thriving, and hopefully their local businesses will grow and then leave their area and bring the economic benefit back to the area. Social sustainability covers everything from social exclusion, training, apprenticeships, and just exploring what opportunities there are. And we will often, when we're looking at tendering for work, we'll go in and do an element of desktop research to understand what the local areas need. And I'll give you probably an extreme example. I had two projects running simultaneously that we were going for, one in Croydon and one in Fleet in Hampshire. And one of the big issues in Croydon at the time was knife crime. And so we were looking to run a service there. So we worked with an organisation called Lives Not Knives to tackle knife crime, work with individuals who were at risk of offending or had come through as ex-offenders, and then giving them the opportunities and training facilities. And then likewise, when we came to Fleet, offering knife crime would have been, tackling knife crime would have been not particularly of benefit to the area, as it wasn't seen as a high priority. However, there were lots of people, individuals that were in the rural communities, young people that were having problems getting into jobs and opportunities because of mobility issues. So we worked with the customer there to provide a moped scheme to help young people in getting apprenticeships and coming and working with the industry. And then finally, the environmental sustainability, which is probably what everyone thinks of when you think of sustainability. And that comes down to, again, a lot around the energy performance of a building, looking at the waste that's done. So we're looking at modern methods of construction, so precast materials, off-site manufacturing, and being able to lift things in. And we recently completed a project for it was £45 million project at the Kingston University. It was their new townhouse project, and we took out some 1970s modular porter cabin style teaching units, and we put in this incredible building. If you're up that way, it's well worth a look at. But it basically came in as a Meccano set. It was precast in Ireland, and it just came in, and they had to do X number of lifts a day to get the project finished. Very little concrete pouring on site, and it just reduced the element of waste that was done. And when we talk about that as well, we look at designing out waste. So having a look at, if you're buying in 2.4 metre plasterboard sheets, do we design our rooms to fit that rather than creating a lot of offcuts? We look at waste, we look at water, we look at even the things, the embodied carbon. So looking at the mixes of concrete that we're using to reduce that carbon of transporting different materials from different places in the world. Can we increase the recycled content? And that goes into things like the steel. We look at the steel industry in the UK, and we want to go, okay, what can we use from here? And a lot of that's coming from virgin sources, and that uses a lot of carbon. So what's the next best thing? And rather than just going out and getting cheapest price, we're looking at the whole value of the project. Right, I think I will stop there, and we'll I think if it's time, we'll go back to you, Angela, open up for questions.
Ben, that was fantastic. Thank you. I was actually enjoying listening to that. Okay, could I ask Alex to join us back? Okay, I can hear an echo with my voice. I'll just try and talk through it, so I hope it's not disturbing anybody. Okay, so listen, thank you to both of you for that. That was absolutely fascinating. So Alex, a couple of questions. Again, to those listening, just raise your hand or turn your camera on. You're more than welcome to jump in with questions, but I'll kick off to start with. So Alex, probably the first question. So we understood why you came into M&E and construction, but what drew you to M&E in your military career?
Well, first of all, it was two parts. The design that drew me in initially, and then the complexity of trying to make a building work. I just found that really interesting. We all look at a building, we look at the outside, we look at the structure. It's present, it's really easy to see, but it's that all the extra stuff that we have to try and fit in somewhere and fit in the ceilings and fit in the basement that actually make it work. And all the clever commissioning that we have to do, and the interesting innovations that are around and constantly coming in. We can't just, it changes year by year, and it's easy to sort of say, oh, we've always done it this way, but there'll be a new innovation, a better way of doing it with M&E, and I think that's really exciting. There's always plenty to learn. You will never know enough. There's always something to look into, and some information to find out.
So just in the couple of years that you've been at Lendlease and that you've been doing it, then what innovation or technology have you seen? So obviously BIM's kicked off in a big way. Prefab, has that been another element that's been quite exciting for you?
Yeah, so the big one on this project is, I've done bits of modular build on the other projects, but this one we've had a real push to try and achieve modular build. And what I mean by that is, and I don't want to say anything too obvious, but it's, trying to do as much off-site fabrication and then putting it on a modular frame that can be brought in a section at a time and built up. So, for instance, we're doing the larger mechanical risers here. So our larger mechanical pipework risers. Obviously, we're talking 50 stories. Some of this pipework needs to go up, and to bring that in. If to stick build that, as we do it on site, would just be too slow and wouldn't catch the program. So we're doing it modular. So 3 floors at a time, so 12 meters worth of pipe, and 3 or 4 bits of pipe on a steel frame, and not just the innovation of getting it on the frame, making it work, is getting it onto site. It's quite a logistics thing, because first of all, you got to lift 12 meters from the back of a lorry up in the air. Then you've got to lift it on the crane, and then you've got to drop it down a riser. But there's steel work, there's concrete, there's everything above you and in the way. And it's like bringing that innovation into a practical install. So you've got really clever things going on how you can build stuff, but also trying to actually get it onto the site. It's very easy just to go, well, we'll bring it all in parts and build it on site, but you will not achieve a modern day program. It's understanding how can we bring that innovation and actually make it practical on site, and that takes a lot of input and a lot of team thought and discussion. And it won't be one person. It will be the lifting AP. It will be the off-site manufacturer. The on-site manufacturer. It will be trade construction managers, the logistics managers. It will be a lot of people to get that clever innovation installed on site, and that's what I find really interesting.
And it's helping drive quality and safety, and I don't know if it's exciting. Ben, is it greener as well, Ben? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think exactly what Alex said there. There's so much innovation going on, and it's at every aspect. And I think that's one of the challenges I give to my team as well, is that our build managers are out on site all the time. Our M&E managers are looking at the drawings and leading the way it's coming in. And so I kind of challenge them and say, I'm not in your shoes. You're the experts at that. You will see the efficiencies that you can have. So let's take that and let's learn that on the next job, or on the logistics, or if we can adjust it on this one even. And that's exactly it. The logistics of putting something, the building together, every job is different, and I think that's what keeps the industry exciting as well. And I think the sustainability agenda has added another edge to that, where people can innovate. And I used to carry, Alex, you've seen them lying all around site, sky hooks around, and I used to carry one of those with me when I used to go into schools and do little presentations, and I would just say to people, this is a perfect example of where you can add value. This is how somebody saw a problem and have made their millions on it. So for those who don't know, a sky hook is basically, it looks like a plastic coat hanger of sorts with various little hooks in. And it's a way of just taking the cables off the floor, lying all around site and hanging them from a ceiling. Now, things have moved on a little bit now. We use a lot of battery powered tools and things, so there's not as many cables, but it just, that health and safety element, trips, slips and falls is one of the biggest health and safety problems on a construction site. It took that away. This chap made his millions. And that's what I say to people all the time. You've got an opportunity to make a difference because you will see a way of improving something, and your idea might be the one that changes the way the industry's done.
Yeah, and can I jump in on that? A big thing in the military, we're all quite motivated people. We're used to that. We'll make a nice concrete plan, and we have never done. We all would have done exercises where that plan is constantly tested and pushed, and we don't just put our hands up and go, right, it doesn't work, we're going home. We have to think on our feet. And when we come to construction, you'll work with many subcontractors, that operatives and so forth, that are literally just turning up to think, right, I want my day job, I want my day wage, and I'm going home. No, they haven't got that motivation, that willingness to think for themselves, or not think for themselves, but overcome the difficult elements. And there's going to be countless difficult. It doesn't just always go to perfect plan. And our sort of natural instinct to problem solve is, as well as problem solve and motivate. So sometimes push the guys to sort of think, I know it's not easy, I know it's not straightforward, but let's work through a plan. Let's come up with an alternative, and let's put it to action safely, not just off the cuff, safely, obviously, but trying to not just go, well, let us know when you've resolved it, we'll go sit in the canteen, sort of thing. Sometimes that you'll come across that and you think you'll struggle with that, because your motivation is a lot more than some of the guys that are just there for the day rate or whatever it is. And and you can really, the way you've encouraged and motivated when you've been out on exercise is exactly what you need to bring to a construction project.
Yeah, no, very, very good point. Very good point. So just on something that you'd said earlier, then you are now a package manager. So just for clarity, on the larger scale projects where the elements themselves are huge, so the frame and the cladding and the M&E and the fit out, so we appoint kind of like mini project managers or package managers, we call them. So you're doing the M&E package management role. What's the key differences between the M&E package manager and the M&E site manager, just for those listening? Okay,
yeah, so well, that's a big one actually. That's a good one actually, because this is my first job that I've come across, and he's not on site at the moment. That we've got an M&E construction manager, an M&E manager looking after the install on site, constantly on site. Like he's primarily walking around. I haven't had that before. Normally, that would be me working with other construction managers, splitting my time 50-50 on site, off site, doing the off site paperwork, but being out on site as much as I possibly can. So on the smaller projects, basically the M&E manager would be expected to be on site most of the time. Sorry, I'd say probably about 50-60% of the time, and then the rest of the time trying to get the planning, the programming, the sequencing, and the quality side of the paperwork done in that sort of 40%. So on a project like I'm on at the moment, it's £300 million large, broken down into a lot of packages. We have actually got a CM, or we will be having a CM on site all the time, which helps. And we've also, like Andrew was saying, where on the smaller project I would have been across every M&E package, whereas this one we've got 3 M&E managers splitting up the packages, 1 electrical, 1 mechanical, and then myself picking up a bit of that kind of tiptoes in both of those, sprinklers kind of in the mechanical, and fire alarm BMS into the electrical, but then cuts across all the packages. So yeah, so on a larger one, you will break it down. And that's the other, I wrote down here when Ben was talking, one of the other things I wanted to point out, that I wouldn't have understood when I was leaving is a lot of people when they're leaving and say they want to be a project manager. Now, if you're working for one of our subcontractors, the lead on that from their project, from their lead on their package will be the project manager for a trade contractor. But when you're talking, like say, coming to a main contractor, you wouldn't be lead, or you may do, but it's probably unlikely that you'd leave the military and then come into a project manager role, because a project manager will be quite experienced across the whole job. He'll be pulling in all the information from the various packages, organising, planning, talking to them. Like, it's quite a senior position, but you could be looking, if you've got that sort of project manager skills, and a bit of experience in that side of things, you could be looking at taking a couple of packages, albeit say like the logistics package or whatever it may be. So just getting that understanding that sort of, for the trade contractors, maybe a project manager, but less so when you're talking to main contractors. You're probably looking for that package manager role. So what I'm doing, taking a few packages or one really big package and looking after that.
Okay, no, that's clear. And for those that have got that come from a trade background within, maybe they're all engineers, so say they're an electrician, having served their time in the army, so kind of 10, 12, 15 years worth of leadership management experience, they want to be more than just an electrician when they come into industry. They want to maybe move into a site management type role. Obviously their bread and butter, their core trade is kind of on services. So for someone like that who's looking to pursue a site management, M&E bias site management role, what courses would you recommend? What course of action should they take?
Okay, well, so you don't have to have a particular qualification to be an M&E manager, but that being, it's more, we're in an industry that's becoming a lot more qualification biased, as many are. So yeah, a lot of younger. So I came in as an assistant building service manager. And then a lot of the people at my university that I was studying at, doing a H&D in building service engineering, I was working alongside a lot of assistant project managers for M&E subcontractors. So the kind of people, Briggs and Forresters and people like that work for us, we were on the same sort of course. So it's building services engineering is a great way to sort of step to that, from that sort of site supervisor or experienced tradesperson into a package management or project management style role within M&E. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think there's two or three unis that do it, and from the guys I speak to, most people have done that qualification. Mm-hmm. That coming into the industry younger. Obviously, you'll speak to M&E managers that are that have just got so much experience that they might have done their apprenticeship when they were a lot younger, but haven't done anything since, and that's not a disadvantage or anything like that. But maybe generally for younger people coming in or fresh from the military, more likely to be looking at a couple of qualifications if you're looking for project management stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, that's really useful, and we've got a couple that are looking at that, so we'll maybe send them your way. A quick question then, for a few questions that we've got for Ben. So the very topical sustainability department. So I think even those who have been in industry for all these decades, it's a relatively new department. Maybe in the last kind of 5-10 years, we've seen it growing. If somebody's in another career and they're looking to pursue sustainability, what advice would you give them? How do you access it? Or
that's kind of an odd one, because I think it does start with some qualifications. I think one of the things that Alex said in his presentation about, quite often as you're coming out of your service, that there's a lot of push towards health and safety and things like that, and you have to think about, how many health and safety managers would there be to look after one region or one office. compared to how many build managers there may be, and the opportunities that you've got, and then so just exploring your transferable skills. So that there may be where you've had experience, because sustainability covers that broad spectrum. So if you're dealing with, there's a lot of elements of waste management, but there's some understanding that you need in there as well. So others may have gone on to get a NEBOSH, and that will link, and you can actually come and join the health and safety teams. Quite often you get bundled together the HS&E team, so the environmental team will come in that route. So you can come in to look at sustainability either via an environmental team, and that will be focused more on the compliance side. So you're, again, like the health and safety teams, you're keeping people out of prison there. You're stopping leaks of oils and other bits and pieces. You've got to keep the site safe. You'll be looking at managing those waste streams, making sure that they're being disposed of legally and in the correct manner and in the best way. And then to take it from that level onto the next level is when you'll go, okay, so we're not just disposing of our waste legally. Now, actually, what we're doing is looking at maximizing it. So rather than sending that waste off to be disposed of somewhere, we're looking at recycling and reusing, or supporting the project team on keeping it on site in the first place. So there's that route in. The other route, again, would then be to go and look at getting a suitable qualification. And I would say as a minimum, you want to be looking at that kind of level 3 HND style qualification. And some of the qualifications out there will be sustainability in the built environment, sustainable management, sustainable environmental management. And then it will be exactly the same route. As I'm part of a smaller office now, but our sustainability teams are growing around the country, and I will be looking to do that in the future as our office grows. I'll be looking for an assistant sustainability manager, and depending on where you have a focus, if you've got a real drive for kind of that social sustainability, you can work in that aspect, or the environmental side. That's kind of the routine. It's one of those ones that's still fairly new, but the teams are growing. Same as our BIM teams. 5 years ago, I joined when I joined Willmott Dixon. In fact, there was nobody doing digital design management, and now every office has got a full team of it, and quite often it's full of some fairly young people who are up and coming. So.
And you're transient between site and head office, aren't you? It's not a desk-bound job. You're sometimes. Yeah. When I
first joined Willmott Dixon, I was doing 35,000 miles a year, which probably isn't great for a sustainability manager. But COVID's taught us a lot of things, and I have reduced that mileage anyway. But that's one of the elements I love about my job role. I work with every single person in the business. I'm out on site with each of our teams, and I love the buzz of being out on site, seeing a project come through and turn into something, and through the design concept. So that's one of the joys of my job.
Okay, now this is to both of you, but to Alex first of all. Andrew has asked a question which I absolutely love. You have been successful in your transition, but what advice would you give yourself if you met yourself just at the start of your career?
Be confident, be a lot more confident. Be like I reflected on my experience in the army a lot more today than I did at the beginning. As in, I was looking at what I did previously that fed into what I do now, and looking back, it was surprisingly, it was quite a lot of what I did is quite similar to what I do now. And I probably should have looked at that and thought about that more at the time, and then used that to build the confidence when I was going into speaking to people. Not primarily when I first spoke to you, Angela, and when I spoke to others in Lendlease, this is what I've done, and this is what I'd like to do. And although early on I knew what I'd like to do, as in building services management, I think really be confident. This is what you want to do. When you're speaking to people, when you're looking, researching qualifications and so forth, really push yourself forward. And you see, when you also, the other thing is when you look, I was really nervous when I was filling in my university application. Obviously, it's been a long time it was a long time since I left school, and you're looking at it and it's saying, whatever qualification. There's always ways around things. You may not have the the tick box, the perfect tick box. I've got this qualification, so then I can go to this level. There may be something in your experience that you can write about and word in a certain way that helps you be considered. If that makes sense, yes. Because so when I did my university application, I wasn't the perfect applicant, but there was a way to get to look at that and word that. So there is opportunities. There will be opportunities you may think are close to you. If you want to do it, talk to people, push for it, and be confident with your background and your skills.
And again, Bill, when you were just freshly back from your travels, suntan, suitcase in tow, at the very start of your journey as you were entering a new career, what do you think? What do you wish you'd told yourself, or you wish you knew?
Yeah, I think for me it was a bit of a different route again, but I think my experience was I went to university as a mature student, and if you want to look at it as the same thing for yourselves now, your transferable skills are so key here, that many of the things you will have done and completed in the army will give you exactly what you need. The processes, the lingo will all be things that you will learn, and so the knowledge that you've got is actually the ability you've got. I get to work with quite a number of ex-forces personnel across the business, and those skills that you've got just lend yourself to moving smoothly into the construction industry. It fits well. That ability to change and adapt, to deal with a problem, to handle a problem, and to solve it is just, I was trying not to do a Vanilla Ice rap there, but it sounded quite close to it. But you've got the abilities. It lends itself to it. So exactly what Alex said, be confident in those abilities and look at what the job's asking for and say, I don't know it in that terminology, but I do know it, and I will learn those. Your procedures, your policies, the same as you would moving into any other job. You've got to pick up the new bits, but you've got that ability already.
Yeah, great advice. And again, I think we've got a question from, is it Steve? You're welcome to ask your question, Steve. Hi, I'll keep asking questions, but just feel free to jump in. Sorry, Alex, one of the things that you mentioned was you're a reservist. So it was just to ask, and we get asked this so many times, but what commitment do you have to give to be a reservist, and how supportive is your employer in that space?
Right, yeah. So there's two types of reservists. So I'm part of a national unit, so it's slightly less commitment because they recruit from UK wide. So you could, although I'm based in Nottingham, my barracks is in Nottingham, you can fly down from Scotland, so they're not expecting you to be there every Tuesday night. So it's reduced to 19 days. So that's two weeks of a course, 2 weeks of an ATX. So I spent 2 weeks in Cyprus. I was meant to be going to the Falklands before COVID last year and things like that. Yeah. So that's 2 weeks. But I think with a local unit, so if you're going to your Tuesday night reservist, I think that's 28 days. And obviously those bit of time that you do in the evenings contribute to those 28 days. Now, obviously, like I was saying before, when I left, I wasn't overly motivated to join a reservist. It was more they gave a certain commitment bonus that that's why. But I really enjoy it, and it's a great way to meet other people in the industry. Because and if you were to come into construction, I'd really recommend my unit, and it is like. They basically use it as a bit of a consultancy. They grab loads of people from industry. There's network rail directors. There's I think someone else, a few others in Lendlease are in it. It's a really good sort of melting pot of people from the industry, and we go and do exciting tasks. Like saying we so it pulls you out of something you're doing every day, and then look at something completely different. I was suddenly looking at what a passenger handling facility. A small airport in Cyprus for a couple of weeks takes you away from what you do day in, day out. So I think it's great. And Lendlease, and I know a hell of a lot of other main contractors that are similar, that give you a lot of support. So Lendlease give 2 weeks paid leave to go and do that. So when I go to Cyprus, when I go to Falklands for a couple of weeks, that is paid by Lendlease, which is great. That doesn't come out of my holiday allowance, and more companies are doing so, and they get recognition from the services that they give the support. And you know, and a lot of companies like Lendlease, they want to be recognised for supporting the military, and I through the reservist schemes. So generally everyone I know in the reserves get really well supported by their employer, and the employers like to shout out to say we've got reservists in our company. They like to talk about it. It is a good thing to have reservists in your company.
Okay, no, perfect. And a couple of text messages that are coming in. Ben, what training courses do you do or have you attended? Because we've got some candidates that have still got their enhanced learning credits. And if they are thinking of pursuing sustainability, what courses would you recommend?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't have an immediate answer for you there. I'm going to have to come back to you. Like I said, I studied environmental science and then sustainable management. But some of you may not want to go that full route, so we'll have to have a look at some of the training courses. If you don't mind, Angela, I'll go away and try and find some courses.
No, that would be perfect. Yeah, that's really, really useful. Okay, and Belinda, do you have a question? If I pronounced that correctly. Okay, Brenda, just feel free to jump in just as we're talking away here. Alex, you also mentioned that you studied a part-time degree. You referenced that you're a one-year-old at home. You were still doing a full-time job. Are you glad that you did it?
Yes, 100%.
You recommend
yeah.
it? Okay, good.
Yeah, it was a challenge, but you know there was you like Lendlease. They understood the challenges I had and helped me out where they could. But yeah, well worth it. It gives you that extra bit of confidence, even though you learn. I mean, like most things, you learn what you learn from sight, and it's that little top up you get. But you also get the confidence of obviously you got that little bit of paper behind you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well worth it.
Okay, no, that's perfect. Listen, we have overrun, but there was just so many questions that we wanted to ask. These are two absolutely fascinating topics at the moment. We're getting so many candidates interested in M&E and in sustainability. So I just can't thank you enough for being here this morning. We will, of course, any candidates that ask if we can connect you to them. I hope you're happy if we send them your way. But thank you again for joining us this morning, and I'll pass back to Caroline just to close.
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Angela, and thank you so much, Ben, especially at the 11th hour, and Alex. And it was really nice to get a different take on the role of site manager and looking at it from a sustainability point of view and an M&E point of view. So that was great. Thank you very much. So next event is the 30th of March. It's an officers event, as we're doing it in association with the Officers Association. And we will have alliance partners, Amy Costain and Highways England. Go on our website, you can book on it that way, because the Officers Association are dealing with the bookings. But look forward to seeing you all, and any support you need, as always, we are here, I am here, Angela's here, our wider alliance such as Ben and Alexandra here. So we're here to offer you that support into the sector. Just give us a call. All right. Have a lovely day. It's nearly Friday.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.